Hello, and welcome to Dark Hearts with Stacey Lee. I'm so glad you're with me today. Today, you and I are going to walk through one of the most horrifying stories I've heard for a while. This case came to a close just days ago, and what we learned during the trial is that a true monster has been caught. The things this man did shocked the human conscience and have left everyone involved stunned at the brutality. Don't forget to hit the like button on the video. It helps so much. And subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me. This is the story of the murder and dismemberment of Sade Robinson, the first state murder. I'm your host, Stacey Lee. Let's begin. Our story begins in the chilly early spring of 2024 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The bars and restaurants began to fill up as people looked forward to the warmer weather and the end of the long, cold Milwaukee winter. 19-year-old Sade Carlina Robinson was attending Milwaukee Area Technical College, and she was working at Pizza Shuttle, where she was loved and adored by everyone. Sade was one of those people who lit up a room. She was beautiful, she had a fantastic smile, and the people who knew her say that she had a bright, incredible energy. We don't know how, but Sade became acquainted with this man, 33-year-old Maxwell Anderson, and the two began talking via social media and dating apps. They talked for a few weeks, and friends and coworkers remember that Sade was very excited that she had finally scheduled her first date with Maxwell. She was looking forward to meeting this man she'd been talking to online, and she picked out a cute outfit for their date and hung it in her room. Sade had spent her high school years living partly with her father in Florida and partly with her mother in Milwaukee. She was a good student, and she had plans to join the military when she finished college, just like her father and other relatives had done. Sade wanted to serve her country, and she was excited about seeing different parts of the world. She had a bright future and everything going for her when it was all taken from her in the most horrific manner you can imagine. On April 1st, 2024, Sade and Maxwell agreed to meet at a brat house for dinner around 5 o'clock, but about an hour before their date, Maxwell told Sade that he was going to stop by his former place of employment, a seafood restaurant, to pick up his W-2. And he said to Sade via text, "Why don't you just meet me there?" Sade replied, "Well, are we eating at the brat house or the seafood restaurant?" And Maxwell said, "Let's eat at the fish house." And Sade replied that she loved seafood and was looking forward to it. Maxwell told Sade that he would see her at the restaurant around 5:15. At around 5:30, Sade and Maxwell are seen on surveillance footage together at the Twisted Fisherman. They ordered dinner and they had a couple of drinks. When they finished their dinner, they got into Sade's car and went to Duke's on Water for more drinks, arriving at the bar around 6:30 that evening. They went inside for a couple of hours and, according to Sade's cell phone, ended up at Maxwell's house at 9:24 p.m. Let's talk about Maxwell's house. The modest-looking home in a nice neighborhood holds many secrets. Maxwell Anderson claimed that he owned the home and rented out the second floor. There was a single man living in the second floor, and he was paying rent to Maxwell. There was also a basement in the house, and the tenant used the laundry facilities in that basement for a little while, but soon stopped because the basement smelled terrible, and he couldn't stand to be in it. Maxwell kept his dog kennels in the basement, and the dogs basically used the basement as a toilet. So as you can imagine, the smell was overpowering. The downstairs tenant was confused as to how Maxwell owned this home because, you see, Maxwell couldn't hold a job. And when he did work, it was maybe 3 days a week. There's still a little confusion on who owned the house then. It has since been sold. But for this tenant, the rent was cheap and Maxwell let the tenant pay in weekly installments, and it was working for both men. The relationship started out well. The men even went out for drinks several times. But by the last year the tenant was in the home, from 2023 to 2024, the relationship soured. Maxwell had people over at the house all hours of the night. The parties were noisy, and the second-floor tenant began to complain about the constant noise and people going in and out of the house. There was also noise from home improvement projects. In the basement, Maxwell had a large tool bench, and he had lots of power tools. And he would do these home improvement projects. Well, he would start these home improvement projects. It sounds like he never really finished them. So that was noisy and disruptive to the tenant as well. And there was something else. Maxwell Anderson would sometimes be gone from the house for 2 or 3 days at a time. The tenant didn't know where Maxwell was staying when he was away from the house. And later on, the question would be raised, what was Maxwell doing when he was away from the house for these extended periods of time? When Maxwell would come home, he was often drunk, and he made a lot of noise, slamming the doors and waking the tenant. But there's more information about this basement. In the basement, Maxwell had what amounted to a sex dungeon. Maxwell Anderson had a large sex sling, multiple types of restraints, and several pairs of handcuffs in the basement. One day, the tenant went down to the basement and noticed that Maxwell had hung a large plastic tarp from the ceiling onto the floor, covering a large part of one of the basement rooms. It would not be until later on that the tenant knew what that tarp was for. So Maxwell and Sade arrive at Maxwell's house around 9:30 on April 1st. We know that they watched the Netflix show Love, Death, and Robots, which is an animated series. In one scene of that series, a dismembered corpse is found on a beach. And afterwards, people would be asking, did Maxwell show Sade this show intentionally as some sort of foreboding? We can only guess. What happened after that, only Maxwell Anderson knows in detail. What we do know is that Maxwell most likely drugged Sade, sexually assaulted her, and then murdered her. Some of the details of the death cannot be verified because of what Maxwell did next. We do not know how Maxwell Anderson killed Sade Robinson. That is because after he killed her, he cut her body up into many pieces, and not all of her has been found. We know that around 1 a.m., Maxwell loaded Sade's body parts, along with the clothing she'd been wearing, into her car. He tossed her iPhone in the car as well, and drove away with this 19-year-old young woman dismembered in her own car. Maxwell made his first stop near Sade's apartment. He dumped a body part there. He then drove near the Ken Park and the Milwaukee River. He stopped there around 1:40 in the morning and dumped parts of Sade's body, her torso, her arms, and parts of her upper body. This took him about 20 minutes. You know, why do people carry their cell phones with them when they're doing stuff like this? I mean, I'm glad they do, but it's just a little surprising that people still do that. At 2:01 a.m., Maxwell drove to 5252 South Lake Drive near Wanamont Park, arriving at 2:53 a.m. There, Maxwell walked along the lakeshore, dropping chunks of flesh on the beach. He also took photos of himself. In one of the photos, Maxwell is holding one of Sade's breasts in his hand. I told you, we've uncovered a monster. Maxwell spent an hour and 42 minutes at the lakeshore. He left around 4:30 a.m. and drove to Lisbon Avenue, where he parked Sade's car in an alleyway, doused it with gasoline, and lit it on fire. He did this in a neighborhood. This was not an abandoned area. And this is where CCTV footage begins to pick up what is happening. Maxwell walks to a park on Galena Street and dumps Sade's left foot in the park near a children's playground. He also spread out pieces of Sade's flesh, and then he takes this blanket that was in Sade's car and carefully lays it out on the ground in some bushes. The blanket has photos of Sade and her dog, Coco Chanel, on it. Maxwell wants people to know what he's done, and he wants people to see just how personal this is. It's horrible, and just when you think this story cannot get any worse, it does. This man, sick doesn't begin to describe what he is. He is a devil. Maxwell is seen on CCTV in a crowded area, just walking the streets like he's headed home from work. Here you see shots taken from a camera on a city bus. This is a shot of the bus nearing the intersection in front of the alley where Sade's car was dumped. And look who emerges from that alleyway onto the sidewalk. Maxwell Anderson, wearing a hoodie and carrying a large backpack. He then approaches a city bus and gets on board. He pays the $2 fare in cash and takes a seat. As the bus drives away, back in the corner of the shot from the camera, you can see Sade's car as the fire begins to burn inside the interior. As I was researching and writing this story, I couldn't help but think about how chilling this fact is. These people on the bus are sitting next to an actual monster who has just murdered a woman, cut her body up into multiple pieces, taken photographs of himself with the body parts, and then spent the early morning hours driving around to dump those body parts all over the city. It is horrifying. When Jason and I are in large cities, we often use public transportation, and you guys know me well enough to know that I've wondered before, as I ride the bus or the train, who I'm sitting next to. Can you imagine what these people felt when they found out that they were in the footage on the bus, sitting next to this demon, this murderer and ghoul? How many times have you or I crossed paths with someone like Maxwell Anderson, who has done unthinkable things without ever knowing it? Yeah, that's something I think about. Maxwell arrives back at his house around 8:30 that morning, the morning after he killed Sade. But before he got there, a call came into 911 around 7:30. Someone has called to say a car is burning at 30th and Lisbon on Milwaukee's north side. Fire crews are sent to put out the fire, and they are able to retrieve several items from the inside of the car. A pair of jeans, some shoes, and they will later find out that those were the same jeans and shoes Sade was wearing when she went on her first date with Maxwell Anderson. Authorities are able to get the VIN number off the car. Luckily, it wasn't burnt off, and they quickly trace the car to Sade Robinson. Blocks away, Sade has failed to show up for work at Pizza Shuffle. Her manager began calling her phone but got no answer, and he immediately became concerned because Sade never missed work without calling in. Now, the police knew they'd found Sade's car, but it could have been stolen or taken for a joyride and then dumped. They had no way of knowing that Sade was dead at that point. That evening, one of Sade's coworkers was so concerned that he drove here to her apartment building and knocked, but got no answer. This coworker then called the police and asked officers to perform a wellness check on Sade. That wouldn't happen until the following day. Throughout the day, Sade's family members had been using the Life 360 app to check Sade's location. They couldn't get a hold of her, and they too were concerned. By early afternoon, Sade's loved ones reported her missing. Because the family members have this location app, they were able to see that her phone last pinged at Warnemont Park, so some of Sade's relatives drove to that location. They got out of the car and began walking the area, including the riverbank, looking for anything that might be a clue as to where Sade was. As these family members were searching Warnemont Park, one of them got a phone call. The police were calling to inform this person that Sade's car had been found burned out near Lisbon Avenue. And that's when everyone knew something was very, very wrong. Sade's family members arrive in the back alley where Sade's car had been found burning. More family members began to gather, and as you can imagine, their concern grew with each passing hour. As Sade's loved ones gathered and everyone's concern grew, another call came into 911. A man was calling to say he'd found a human leg with pink toenails on the riverbank at Warnemont Park, about 11 minutes from where Sade's car was found. Investigators rushed to the scene and confirmed that yes, this was a human leg, cut off at the hip socket. Now, Kootenay High School was located nearby this park, so police pulled surveillance footage from the high school. That surveillance footage showed a black Honda Civic running right through the closed and locked chain link gate around 2 a.m. They went to the gate and found broken pieces of taillight and bumper belonging to that make and model of car. Surveillance footage from cameras at the high school showed a man walking down to the water's edge around 3:02 in the morning. For the remainder of the day, the investigation continued into the body part found on the beach, with no one knowing it belonged to Sade. The following day, April 3rd, the police arrived at Sade Robinson's apartment to do a wellness check because both her family and coworkers had reported her missing. I find it a bit disturbing that it took them a day to get there. Sade was not in her apartment. There was no sign of a struggle. And as the police were about to leave, a call came over the radio confirming that DNA testing on the leg found at Warnemont Park was back. It matched DNA provided by the family of Sade Robinson. They now knew that was her leg. Now, this, of course, changed everything. Investigators now knew that not only had Sade been murdered, but that she had been dismembered. The coroner told cops that the leg had been crudely sawed off with multiple points of contact with the blade used to remove it. A few hours later, a friend of Sade's called the police and told them that she knew Sade was supposed to meet Maxwell Anderson for a date. So the police began looking for him. They located a house in Maxwell's neighborhood with a camera on it, which showed Maxwell walking back and forth from his house to Sade's black car multiple times between 1 a.m. and 1:30 on April 2nd. And that was enough for them. They knew it was time to move. As Maxwell Anderson drives near his house, his car is surrounded by Milwaukee police officers. He pulls over and is taken from his car. A neighbor was able to take video of the arrest.
Exclusive video appears to capture the moment investigators took Maxwell Anderson into custody near his home at 39th in Oklahoma, following a whirlwind investigation that started April 2nd.
Milwaukee County 911 dispatch received a call from Cudahy Police Department regarding a severed leg at Warnemont Park. Subsequently, a Milwaukee police officer who was aware of our investigation raised the possibility that the leg may be related to a missing person investigation that they were conducting.
That missing person, Sade Robinson.
The police searched Maxwell Anderson's car and found the jacket he was wearing in the surveillance video taken from the city bus. That jacket was sent off for testing, where technicians confirmed it had Sade Robinson's blood on it. There was also blood belonging to Sade found in Maxwell's car. The police then obtained a search warrant for Maxwell's house. Inside, they found blood on the walls and floor of the home, but that blood did not match Sade's. The police have not stated who they believe that blood belongs to, but of course we have to wonder, has he done this before? It seems very unlikely, knowing what we know about these types of people, that he's going to murder and dismember a woman for his first crime, you know? In the house, investigators also found several gas cans with Maxwell's fingerprints on them. The police then returned to the location where Sade's car was found and began to spread out through the entire area. That led them to the park nearby, where they found Sade's foot with the same pink toenail polish on the leg found earlier. Cops also found some of Sade's tissue. This guy had just butchered her. After Sade's family and friends heard about this, they went to the park near Lisbon and began searching in the bushes. And that's when they found Sade's blanket. On April 12th, formal charges were filed against Maxwell Anderson. He was charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and arson. 3 days later, a huge vigil was held in front of Maxwell's house, with Sade's friends, family, and members of the community gathering to remember her and putting out pink tokens in Sade's memory. She loved pink. 2 days later, a man was walking along the shores of Lake Michigan when he found a human torso and an arm. Investigators arrived at the scene and collected the body parts.
That person found the torso and arm as they walked along Lake Michigan. The beach is just beyond this wooded area here. Neighbors shocked by the discovery in their own backyard. Lake Michigan waves in South Milwaukee turned up a disturbing discovery Thursday morning.
Hectic. scary, kind of like shocking.
Someone on their morning walk along the shore found a torso and an arm. Investigators believe the remains belong to 19-year-old Sade Robinson. Topanga Brogdon didn't want to go on camera, but she watched investigators from her backyard.
They came back up carrying the body bag.
Angela Buchanan captured a photo of the crime scene, police tape blocking the path down to the lake just after sunrise.
It hits really hard because it's just the brutality of it.
Prosecutors say 33-year-old Maxwell Anderson killed Robinson after their first date on April 1st and mutilated her body.
Unfortunately, I kind of right away had just this bad gut feeling just because I know this is not far at all from Warnemont Park where her leg was found.
On April 2nd, someone found Robinson's leg near the water at Warnemont Park. Police later discovered human remains believed to be Robinson's on Milwaukee's north side, near 30th and Galena, along with her torched car.
It's scary that, you go on a first date with somebody and this is what you have to worry about.
Robinson's family and friends came to the beach after learning about today's discovery. They didn't want to go on camera, but tell me they want to be able to have a proper funeral and burial for Robinson.
These discoveries incredibly disturbing.
Anger began to grow among area residents. How could this happen? How were they living next door or down the street or across town even from a man capable of doing something like this? Well, we here in the true crime community know it happens all the time. These people walk among us doing terrible things, kidnapping people, sexually assaulting people, and killing them, cutting them up. If you sit and think about it too much, it will consume you. I don't recommend it. On April 22nd, 2024, Maxwell Anderson pled not guilty to all charges and waived his preliminary hearing. The court ordered him held on $5 million bond. The following month, formal court proceedings began, during which the defense stated there was no blood belonging to Sade found in Maxwell's house. I mean, they have to say something. This guy's caught dead to rights. They have to mount some type of defense. The judge listened to the arguments and ordered the trial to begin in December of 2024.
34-year-old Maxwell Anderson will enter a courtroom at the Milwaukee County Courthouse where jury selection will begin in his trial for murder. Prosecutors say he killed and dismembered 19-year-old Sade Robinson after a first date in Milwaukee on April 1st of last year. These surveillance images show Robinson and Anderson together that day. The next day, a hiker found Robinson's severed leg in Warnemont Park in Cudahy. Days later, officials found more remains near her burned-out car at 29th and Lisbon Avenue in Milwaukee, and later in Lake Michigan and Waukegan, Illinois. Prosecutors charged Anderson with murder, mutilation of a corpse, and arson. He's pleaded not guilty to all charges.
There were, as there usually are, some delays. But on May 28th, 2025, just 2 weeks ago, the murder trial began. The prosecution came out swinging, presenting surveillance footage of Sade and Maxwell together, and of Maxwell driving around the city, dumping her body parts.
Calling State of Wisconsin versus Maxwell Anderson.
The first key moment in the trial of Maxwell Anderson, the 34-year-old appearing in court with a new look for his murder trial. Clean cut and freshly shaven, very different from his mugshot. On day one, a jury of 12 women and 3 men were selected inside Judge Laura Corvello's courtroom.
The jury service is, I believe, your highest form of civic responsibility that you will have as citizens of Wisconsin or citizens of the United States of America.
Prosecutors say Anderson killed and mutilated Sade Robinson following a first date on April 1st, 2024. Lead prosecutor Ian Vance Krazan laying out his case in opening statements.
That night, she was murdered by Maxwell Anderson. Her body was dismembered by Maxwell Anderson in a vicious and gruesome manner. And then Maxwell Anderson attempted to make her disappear from this world by discarding her body.
Key moment number 2, Anderson's defense attorney, Anthony Cotton, reveals that someone else was inside Anderson's home when the two returned the night of their date.
What Pete Warbington will tell you is that he was home. He was there that night. There was no struggle. There was no fight. There was no horrific event, argument between Max and Sade. But this is a downstairs tenant who can hear even the TV playing. He doesn't hear a thing.
Building their case, the prosecution's first witness, Osiris Terrell, who first made the discovery of one of Robinson's body parts at Watermont Park the day after her date with Anderson.
We were walking down there and there was a severed leg.
New body camera footage taking the jury to the scene.
As they're walking, see that leg right there? Yeah.
Surveillance video of Watermont Park shows an unidentified silhouette on the bluff. More videos appear to show Robinson's car driving in the area the night she vanished, as questions remain of what happened to Robinson. Detectives retraced Robinson's steps. This video shows her leaving her apartment in the Brewers Hill neighborhood. She then goes to work at Pizza Shuttle before going out with Anderson. It wasn't until the next day, when she didn't show for work, that a manager contacted police.
When I messaged her, I said, please just text me and let me know you're okay, because she doesn't have to come to work. She doesn't have to answer her phone. But I just wanted her to let me know that she was okay, and I knew she would if she could. And when she didn't, I got very scared.
A big part of the investigation, Robinson's car found torched near 30th and Lisbon.
Who did that? He did that.
Key moment number 3, never before seen video from a corner store, street cameras, and county buses. Prosecutors say videos show Maxwell Anderson walking away wearing a backpack. Before that, he allegedly appears on surveillance footage driving Robinson's car in the area.
And a witness statement was reported that they had seen an individual walking away from the 2020 Honda Civic after throwing what the witness claimed appeared to be a lit lighter into the driver window.
Robinson's clothing, matching the description of what she wore on the date, were found in the trunk of the car. As more evidence places Anderson in the area where the fire was lit, and her remains were discovered before heading home.
Do you see that person in court today?
I do. He's seated at the defense counsel's table wearing a blue button-up shirt with a white t-shirt underneath it.
Any objection?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Prosecutors zeroing in on Anderson as emotions run high into week 2 of the trial. The end of Friday's testimony focused on Robinson's torso and arm that were found in South Milwaukee more than 2 weeks after she was reported missing. The state will resume its case Monday at 8:45 a.m. In the studio, Bria Jones.
The trial continued until just last week. On June 6, 2025, the jury returned a verdict of guilty on all 4 charges: first-degree intentional homicide, dismemberment, arson, and hiding a corpse. The judge has scheduled sentencing for August 15th, 2025, and I will bring you an update in the form of a short after that occurs. I want to send love from the Dark Hearts community to the family and friends of Sade Robinson. What you have been through is something the rest of us, most of us, cannot wrap our heads around. To have a family member murdered is everyone's worst nightmare, but to have them murdered and then cut into pieces and photographed by a maniac is unthinkable. We will not forget about Sade, and we will not forget about what Maxwell Anderson did to her. And I truly hope the police are looking into this guy further. It is very rare that we see someone go from 0 to murder and dismemberment. I hope they are looking at him for other murders. They may have caught a serial killer. As for Maxwell Anderson, this vile, disgusting monster of a man, I have some thoughts. This guy looks soft AF to me. He's a 34-year-old loser who can't hold a job, who acts like he's 20 when he's much older, and who is your typical failure to launch, dirtbag. I'll say dirtbag. I hope his time in prison is miserable. I hope the other inmates know what he did, and I hope he never knows a moment's peace. And to anyone watching, please remember to be safe. I'm sure Sade felt like she knew this man because they'd been talking for a while, and people get murdered all the time by their own spouses, people they've been with for decades. Sade couldn't have known she was going on a date with a madman, but still, keep those first 5 or so dates in public. Don't go home with people you don't know. Keep your location on, like Sade did, and let people know where you're going to be. Don't tell new people in your life where you live, and never go to a private location with someone you've just met. You never know if the friendly face and charming person on the other end of the dating app is another Maxwell Anderson just waiting for their chance to strike. Thank you for joining me today on Dark Hearts with Stacey Lee. Would you hit the like button if you liked the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me? It helps a lot. I want to give a special thank you to my patrons, and if you join my Patreon, you will get some bonus content that you can't see or hear anywhere else. This is my podcast. It's on Apple and Spotify. I post brand new episodes every Monday and Wednesday. And don't forget about our fundraisers. We've got 2 going right now. There's a playlist on my channel entitled Fundraisers. Both videos are on that playlist, and they will tell you how you can donate to either or both of our causes. I hope you're well, my friends, and that you're enjoying the warmer weather, at least here in the States. Stay safe and be kind to each other, and I will see you next time on Dark Hearts with Stacey Lee. Bye.